welcome to episode 5 of Inside Soccer. For this episode, I'm absolutely delighted to introduce my next guest, and that is Dr Chris Platts. And we're going to have hopefully a good discussion around the modern UK football academy. So how are you getting on, Chris? Are you okay today?
All good, thank you, Alan. Good to be here.
Good stuff. So first of all, Chris, can you just give us a little bit of a bio about your background and how you sort of found your way into your interest and your academic interest around the academy and football academies? That'd be really useful to kick us off.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Dr Chris Platts. So I now work as a career coach in professional football. I've got a PhD. I did that in 2012, and it examines the lives of 303 young players. I then followed those 303 players, which has given me the largest independent study into career trajectories. So what I do now is try and take that data and help young players and their families to start to predict the future, where they're going to end up, how they can then plan for that future, and how we optimize performance based on that data. The end goal of what I do now is to try and get those young players to understand how they can thrive inside and outside of football based on academic research that I've brought forward. My route into it was sport and exercise science undergrad at the University of Chester, and then I followed that through a sociology of sport masters and into a PhD. Like I say, that finished in 2012. I worked in academia up until 2024 before setting up my own business.
So what did you feel, Chris? Like what sort of drew you in, like, interest wise into young players? Was it something you experienced yourself, or somebody that you knew, or
a bit of everything? In that I've always been a football fan, so tough couple of years because I'm a Sheffield Wednesday fan. So I think I wouldn't say I was like an aspiring young footballer, but I was, would always watch football with interest. And when the opportunity to complete a PhD came up, I'd already been drawn into sociology and its mechanisms for understanding how organizations operate, how society operates. So the chance to then, I guess, bring together my enjoyment and love of football with the academic side, which I was really enjoying, I couldn't turn that down. So it became a study of how does an organization like a professional football club develop these young players. Sociology is great for us understanding that, and so that was like my way in, and I guess as well it was there's a chance to go and visit clubs, and we ended up with 21 clubs as part of the study. That was a great thrill to go and see the inside bit of the game, and then the PhD really then just changed my life. It was a moment that I had 6 months traveling around clubs collecting data, and the stories that emerged from the players, I think then was, now I look back going, oh, that was the bit that really changed my career trajectory of going, I'm sticking with this. Like, there's so much that needs to be said here. There's policies that aren't working. There's ways in which clubs could work better. They could actually develop better players. There's, actually, how's this going to help the England team? I mean, you just go on, as you well know. By the time you finish your PhD, you've got more questions than you started with.
Yeah.
And that's just led me down that career,
Yeah, it's a mad world, the old football academy, isn't it? It's like, I think got my own sort of views and thoughts about it. I know obviously it's changed a little bit over the generations as
I'm
it
looking
naturally
forward to
does.
hearing your views.
Yeah,
say again.
I think it naturally kind of changes and develops, but whether that's for the good, Chris, we'll get into sort of the nuts and bolts of that. But so can you just tell us, what would be the typical pathway of a young player coming into a football club?
Currently, probably it would be you're going to have a group who started to attend a pre-academy from 5 or 6, and we could get onto that as a topic. Then you've got a group who probably stayed in grassroots a bit longer, and then by the age of 8, 9, 10 have probably been spotted, invited down, started training with academies. You've then got a late development group, and really there's like bit of a bottleneck, I think, around the age of 13, 14, 15, where you've got those three groups like all coming together. There's been a lot of development, and then things start to get serious because under 14s we've signed them into playing, and then under 16 they're starting to think, is there a scholarship on the table at under 18? I think also it's worth pointing out that probably the last 10 years has seen a real rise in private academies that aren't all bad. You know, sometimes it's easy to go, well, private, so they're just about making money. Well, the clubs are about making money. It's all about making money realistically, but there are some very good at private academies out there as well, which is something relatively new as a trend, or certainly a growing trend. You know, there's been private academies around for a while, but it's growing. So that would be the kind of route in, being spotted, doing well at grassroots, somebody inviting you down, and then the sort of, I always suggest it's like you're jumping in a stream. There's a bit of a current, and it starts pulling you with it into this. We like this, or this is a busy schedule. They like him a bit more. They want to offer him another year, another 2 years. There's a scholarship on the table. There's a scholarship plus 1 year professional on the table. What does this mean? And that's, I think, where I get involved, going, right, let's look at the data. What's this going to look like over the next 5 to 10 years? And how do you navigate that as a parent, as a young player? That educational piece comes in.
Yeah. So probably a big question, Chris, for you next, this one, in your view, because you've been in the sort of the cutting edge of this in relation to speaking to modern young players, and that is, do you think academies need a review? Do they need a reform? Do they need to be rethought? Any sort of thoughts on that?
I do think, yeah. So let me just add some context with that. It sounds like a real politician's answer, this, but because I have gone on the record, as I think you well know, to say the academy system, I think, is dead. And I said that because it's not going to go away. It's not like when I say it's dead, it doesn't exist anymore. But by the measurable objectives of what it was set up to do, it's not delivering. And we're stuck in the trap of, we've had the elite player performance plan from 2012. So we're 13, 14 years into that. I think that's up for review. And I think it needs a review. There are people inside the game talking quite openly about the issues. The under 21 football is one I've been quite vocal about. So I think that's ready for a review. And I think that we're still wedded largely to the 1990s model of academy football, with some updates, but largely it's still built on that. Now, how does change occur? I don't think I'm one person who's going to suddenly change a whole system. Is it one club that steps forward going, this is costing us this amount of money? We don't get anywhere near that return. In fact, as the owner, we're having to put money into it. What's that academy for? Like, what? And at that point, does one academy start to buck the trend in the way that we've seen Brighton or a Brentford buck the trend with recruitment, for example? Boda Glimt is, their example of AI. And then one club steals a march, becomes a trendsetter. Just before this catch up, I was talking to a club, and we were discussing how, if you're the first to go to something, the risk is high, but the reward is high because you get ahead of the curve. And if they start to implement some of the things that I think need to be done, I think the reward is there for a club to move towards a model where financially it returns more, along with other things, potentially more into the first team. So I do think the system needs some sort of change. Where that change comes from, I think, is the big question.
Well, what's your thoughts, Chris, on the current age v age structure? Like when I was coming through, I know it's a long time ago now, we used to have like quite a lot of mixed age stuff. So like you'd be in a sort of a team on a Saturday, and you might be playing with couple of lads who are a few years older than you, maybe a couple of pros who are coming back from injury, a couple of lads who are the same age as you, maybe one or two that are a year younger. So quite a lot of mix in there. But
what age was that, Al? What
That
age was
that
that?
was that was kind of, I was around 16, 17 in the old like B team, A team system, and
Yeah.
we had the Central League in them, which was really good. I played in the reserves at 16 alongside some really good professionals, and it was like a bit of a rude awakening because you had to get used to the pace and the physicality. But I
Yeah.
think my worry, Chris, with the modern sort of structure is like everything's like the 12s play the 12s, the 14s play the 14s, the 16s play the 16s. And unless you've got a really, really high quality football, you mentioned before about, Wayne Rooney's from being on the bench for the youth team at 15
Yeah.
years old.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is there in an under 18s group, but maybe not as much. Does that sort of hamper or hinder you in any way, do you think?
Yeah. So this is a complex one to pick apart, but here's my take on it. Archie Gray
Mm.
skips under what 18s, 21s back straight into the first team. So you're going to get those players who stand head and shoulders, right? And they're starting to get that development early on. Then you get a group of players. What we don't want to do in my sort of world is then just throw away the late developers. So the question that I think then comes with, what do we do with the 18 to 21 who are not showing yet that they're going to get to the first team? The club have got to fulfill fixtures in their under 21 competition. So that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they want to give opportunities to players to go and be the late developers, the ones who they release, they go somewhere, and then a few years later, they're back in the Premier League, and somebody goes, "We released him."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you need to start thinking strategically about your loan moves. I believe.
Yeah.
So I would say that I would be playing the better under 16s up where you can, play the better under 18s up into
Yeah.
your 21s to give you a better squad. Play your first year under 21s, great. Sacrifice results in many respects in the under 21s. Like, I'm not saying don't go out to win, but you're actually increasing, you're getting them onto the edge of their comfort zone far more. And with under 21 football, there's too many on decent wages.
Yeah.
It's too slow. It's not
Yeah.
quick enough. The tempo's not there. The physicality's not there.
Yeah.
But then you're saying to them, and in their mind, they're like, right, well, I'm on decent money, so, and this is how I get to the first team. No, it isn't. It just isn't. You don't go from being 20 in the under 21s to suddenly arriving and then being able to do it. I've posted on LinkedIn today, two examples because there's a lad from Hearts who's gone to Tottenham
Yeah. Yes.
and on loan to play under 21s. And Derek McInnes has said,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's
I
come
saw
out
that.
saying that's a wrong move for him. And I'm thinking, yeah, it is the wrong move for him.
Yeah.
But how much career planning have you done with the kid?
Yeah.
How much have you spoke to him about the loan deals he does therefore need to get in order to get into Hearts' first team? Probably they haven't done any. And the other example is Harvey Elliott, where not getting game time at Liverpool, gone to Aston Villa, not got game time. And I've read two things today going, oh, he's made a mistake. It's not worked out. That's the best thing he could have done.
Mm-hmm.
Because now he knows that football is not about the player for the football club. It's about the football club.
Yeah.
Unai Emery is simply about Unai Emery and doing the best he can do,
Sure.
not about Harvey Elliott. He's learned that at the age of 22. And if I was sat next to him now, I would say to him, Harvey, that is the best thing you've ever done. You've learned very early in your career how cutthroat this is. So where are we going next?
Yeah.
Where are you going to get game time now? This season's happened, but you've been in the professional environment. You've stepped out. There will be players at Liverpool still going in there under 21s thinking that this is going to happen, and it won't. You've stepped out your comfort zone, gone and done it. And then lower down, I think that there's still room for some bio banding with the really lower group. So I wouldn't be going with like the 12s and 13s mix because I think you've still got such a big difference in size, weight, and I think I'd be more in that space. But then when they get older, realistically, to get them to the level that you want them to get to, you've got to push them.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to have honest conversations with, by the way, that means you got to go out on 2 loan deals as part of this scholarship contract or whatever it might be, so that because we're going to push you.
Yeah.
If you sit in the under 21s, And I've been to plenty of Premiership clubs where it's comfortable, great food, nice environment, kit's done for me, clips are already clipped up by the interns for me, and then I come back in and I'm getting good money, and
yeah, that's true. What was it? It's Michael Calvin said there's no hunger in paradise, Chris, isn't it? Yeah, describing those contexts.
That's it. That's and again, sociologically, psychologically, where are these lads getting this information from? That the club's there to do the right thing for the club, not the right thing for the player. And Arsenal now, it's all about just winning the league. It's not about youth player development right now. It's everything that Arteta is doing right now is about this is the season. It's landed for him. Great signings, big squad. City's struggling a little bit. You can see it, can't you?
Yeah.
Yet they've got some young players there who you're thinking, I thought they might be close to the England squad. Not, they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
Because for the football club, it's about winning matches and making money. And unless you as a player can prove yourself in that, then you've got to protect yourself. But I worry that at 16, 17, 18, we're not having those conversations with the kids. Because why would the club have that conversation with them when they need to fulfill their under-21 fixture? It's a difficult predicament.
It is, Chris, and there seems to be sort of a focus on like short-term development over long-term development. And probably some clubs do it better than others, but I think largely, generally, I think there's still that argument there, isn't there? That our players, managers, the tenure's not long, isn't it? Can they trust a group of young players coming into a first team? It's hard, isn't it?
And let's not pretend that we'd do any different. If you were a first team manager, if I was a first team manager, the thing that we need the most is to win Saturday, Tuesday. You look at what's happened at Man United, obviously. All of a sudden, Carrick's winning games, and it's like, boom, right. Oh, we can do this stuff with the academy now. Great, yeah, you can because you're now in a good place. When it was results aren't going well, it was just like we've not got space for Kobe Mainu to develop. We need now, desperately need now, and we'd be the same. So probably that's where I go, fine. Kobe Mainu is a good example because I've spoken about him before. If you're Manchester United, what's the strategy? Nick Nagoma at Liverpool, Ethan Nwaneri at Arsenal. Is that a director of football who goes, okay, we want Kobe Mainu to be 27 years old and the mainstay of the Manchester United centre midfield because he's that good? At the moment, we can't get him in the team. So he's just stagnating from his development. This isn't about, does he want it enough? Does he not? Where's a loan move for him where he can go, get minutes, be exposed to European football, all the things. And by the way, because he's at another club, he could be making mistakes and it's not the end of the world for us. So he goes to a Portuguese team, Porto, whatever, gets regular game time, develops. We're in contact with him. That's strategically where I would be saying that's how we have to get to where because we've got to give the manager the space to just win the next game. That's what he's judged on. That's what he's judged on. Arteta's going to be judged on them winning the league this year. And we have to understand that. We have to have empathy with the manager. And I wouldn't therefore be saying, right, well, Ruben Amorim got it wrong with Kobe Mainu. He had to win games sharpish because he was under pressure. So then it needs a more of a strategic look, doesn't it, from the club?
Yeah.
Is it director of football? Probably is now in the more complex clubs, as clubs have got more complex in their structures. I think that's what that strategic role needs.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's lots of kind of arguments that as well. Like so a lot of football. Would you agree, Chris? It's about face fitting sometimes as well.
Yeah, and I would work with players to go, how do you fit then?
Yeah.
Let's not pretend that's not the world. How are you fitting in? What? And the other side of that is like, how do you stand out so that the manager goes, I'm not having him? Like just straight away, obviously people will debate. You get 5 seconds to make a first impression, 30 seconds to make a first impression. What might it be? And I think for young players, that's a real key element. We know that attitude is the biggest predictor of success at the top. And we also therefore know that coaches, scouts look at attitude, personality profiling.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Again, we can't just say that to players. Look, you've got to have a good attitude. The work I do with players goes, tell me what a good attitude is. Here's 15 coaches, and here's what they said a good attitude was. You go and find me players who you think've got a good attitude. Let's put together conceptually, I wouldn't say conceptually to a young lad, but let's put together what a good attitude is.
Yeah.
So now you can start to think about, how do I work on that then? How do I... Otherwise, it's just words for them. And that's, I think, how you then get the face fitting of going, we can't do without this kid. It might not be the club you're at now. And my data would suggest you've got to move about 5 times, really. So you've got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
But what is a good attitude? What does a coach think a good attitude is?
Yeah. Absolutely, Chris. 100%. It's probably everything, isn't it? Arguably.
Yeah.
Because in building your character as well, because football is a game of hard knocks, isn't it? And we're back at that argument again. Our players properly getting prepared for first team football when they come through the 16s, the 17s, the 18s, and they start kind of stepping up with the big boys sooner or later. That's an important thing to keep analysing, isn't it, and working on within these environments.
And the I think the wider point is that we have also become a bit more risk averse within wider society, within kids' development. I've got 2 young kids myself, and I struggle with somehow how society has perhaps shifted, and then I go, have we shifted too far where we're too protective? I have mobile phones, so I know where they are all the time. What's the downside of us knowing where they are all the time? It's surveillance. And then where's the risk taking? Oh, no. Let's take him to a football club because the coaches are vetted, and then they don't play on the park on their own, kick about. I used to play on a school field, mates. All right, what's the unintended consequence of that is that Alan goes to a club which is adult-led coaching. It's drill-based. It's a controlled environment. Is being watched versus, and that could be a pre-academy, versus Alan going to the school field and playing with mates where he develops risk, having a go at stuff, shooting from the halfway line because it's a laugh, putting the ball through somebody's legs, ingenuity, discovering things himself. If you keep going to the controlled environments, the things that we want to see in our elite players, like, there's a bit of an X factor about him. Where's that going to come from if we keep going to a controlled environment?
Yeah.
And again, that's, I think, back to a more risk averse society in general with kids. Don't climb the trees when you talk about what life will be like. 40, 50 years ago, that was full of that. And I come full circle back to coaching and going, are we coaching out ingenuity? Are we coaching out the X factor? Would a Gaza come through the system today? Or would they go, he's got a bad attitude? Like a Rooney, a raw talent.
Yeah. Yeah, creativity is a really interesting term, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is. Where do we get creativity from? Where do we, if we're constantly going with technique, are we creating out the people who you looked at going? The one I always go with is Michael Johnson, the runner. The 200 and 400 meter runner who you saw him run and you're thinking, how is he running like that?
Yeah.
I once saw him run
live. He almost had like a perpendicular style, didn't he? Like sort of straight back and that. Yeah, upright.
And then watching him run live, I'm just thought, it's like as fast as a car. I can just remember being like in awe, going, that is so fast. I think, would a coach have coached that technique out of a kid? Would yeah, it's a that's the bit where I worry about pre-academies. I worry about pre-academies on two fronts: over specialisation, because we know that doesn't lead to world-class performance, and two, um, they are adult-led environments. They're not kid-led environments, and so they are developed for adults' goals. And at that age, I'd be like, play, multi-sports, enjoy, discover your relationship with the ball. What you can do, what you can't do. Try tricks, try things. Fall out, laugh about it. It doesn't matter because you're 6.
Yeah.
It's
like the sort of almost like the academies they don't really want you doing much outside of their guys. Is that fair? Because I know like some of players that I've sort of spoke to, like my son Sammy, come through kind of like decent footballer, come through the system. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out for him. He's gone into coaching now, but a lot of demand put on young players at times, Chris, in relation to, you've got training on a Tuesday night, Thursday night. The school team want you to turn out. Then you've got like, because it's not your fault that you're good at something. They're saying to you, "Oh, you run across country for us on Friday," and like the school, and you think I used to worry so much about him getting burnt out because I had a similar shot. I had a really bad back at 23 and a half years old, screws and plates in my spine, just ridiculous amounts of pressure coming through the football. And that's what I still worry about that when I see young players. And like you said, Chris, the early specialisation. Is that still sort of apparent within football academies, you think, like that sort of level of
I get sent stuff from parents around what young kids are doing, and I'm just thinking, I always talk to honesty, I always talk to reality, and I'll say, your kid's 12, this has got burnout written all over it. Like, let me talk to you about the data. And the one I always quote back is Cristiano Ronaldo, who says, one of the biggest things in my toolkit is rest, my ability to sleep.
Yeah.
What a great time to talk to kids about rest and recovery. Because they'll say, oh, no, but he wants to do it all. He might do, but he needs to learn about rest. If he's going to be an elite player, which is what you're saying, you grow the most when you're asleep. And so let's talk to him about that now. And that's, I think, when you drill down into, actually, is it the parent who's pushing this or is it the kid who's pushing this? And you have to be brave as a parent, as a young player, to be, no, we're not doing that. The tension between kind of school sport, club sport arises, and I've come across stories where coaches have moved training. Oh, we'll train on a Monday night then, because they're like, that's when the school trains. Yeah, no. So we'll move it to a Monday night. So then the school are like, oh, we can't train on that night, those games, and they go, no, we'd never stop you playing for your school. But the reality is, it brings up tension. And I think you've got to be brave as a young kid and a young player to know, hang on a minute, these lads, these coaches cannot predict what I'm going to be like at 21 when I'm 14. So if it's a birthday party of my best mate and I'm missing training, I need to hold that line. That's a non-negotiable. And I don't want to feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
If it's a cup final for the school and I really want to play in it, I'm going to tell the coach that, and I'm going to say, look, this is what I want to do, and hold your line, and don't feel embarrassed and shamed in that space. But it's hard to do because the coach is the one with the power.
Yeah. It must be difficult, Chris. I know from myself, like at sort of 14, 15, I'm not sure if I'd have gone to a coach and said to them, I feel really tired at the moment. Is there any chance I can miss this session?
Has to be the parent, doesn't it? Yeah.
So parent education, we need more of that, Chris, you think, around issues and topics like you just spoke about, burnout.
Yeah. I think talking to reality, getting them to understand. So if I say, look, you're at a Cat 1 Academy, 81% of players in Cat 1 Academies get professional contracts at 18. 81%.
Yeah.
What? I thought it was like 1% make it. No.
Yeah.
There's an under 21 competition. Loads of those Cat 1 Academies will give out a good number. In fact, they've probably committed to a scholarship plus 1 year or 2 years anyway, right? So it sounds terrible. You're not special because you get that contract at 18. And actually, the real hard work starts when you get that contract at 18 to still be there at 23, 24. That's the big challenge, to get yourself. But again, it's almost impossible for clubs to talk to that reality. So for me, the parental education is here's what data tells us about this as a career, and therefore as a parent, if an agent approaches you, interview them based on this data. You know, we know that he needs 5 moves in his first 5 years. Where would you suggest he goes and why? Great question for an agency.
Yeah.
And if they can't answer that, then you know they're not the agent for you, because that's what the data tells us. So a lot of mine is about empowering parents and giving them the reality of the situation, because I've yet to come across a club who've fully committed to that. I think they could do.
Yeah.
And again, you know, I've got a couple of clubs that I'm talking to where I'm trying to say you don't have to be cloak and dagger about this scenario. Give them space, give the parents time. They'll actually appreciate the honesty here in many respects, going, and this is how we want to plan out his career. This is how he gets the best chance. But so far, I've not got that with a club. So it's been with parents and young players and saying, okay, this is how I think you go about doing this.
Yeah, it's true. It's all true, Chris. So let me take you into another topic that's challenging, Chris, and that is, you know, your deselection of players. There must be quite a lot of cleave across different year groups. And I read something a week or so ago that again made me quite sad. And it's like almost this deselection situation's filtering down into grassroots football now, where some managers, coaches are picking players at 11, 12 and saying to others, you're not up to the standard now, so we're going to have to. I'm thinking, how heartbreaking is that? That's like an early years experience of football, which is a game that we all started playing because we enjoy it, we love it. And then you're saying to a kid at 11 and 12, like, oh, you're not going to be in this grassroots team anymore, so you're going to have to look for someone else. Like, how sad's that? It's really bad.
Yeah.
So into the academy, because deselection an issue, you think problem still, like the way it's done, dealt with?
It's hard, isn't it? And I sympathise on both sides here, because we're asking coaches to make a call on a kid who's 12 based on their experience. What's he going to be like at 19, 20?
Yeah.
Nobody can do that. Nobody can do it. So for that reason, it doesn't make any sense to even ask coaches to do that. But because there's competition between the clubs, what the clubs do is fall into the trap of thinking we need the best kids at 12 because they're the ones who've got the best chance of going on to be pros at 18, 19, 20. Not true. So now go back as the club going, if the ones who aren't the best at 12 aren't necessarily the best at 18, what's the strategy? Why are we releasing players at 12? Or if we're bringing them in at 8, 9, how long do we give them to develop? And what are we measuring against? Have we got data from our 21s at the moment that we can then say, and this is where they were at 11? No. So what? It's just a completely flawed idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now the grassroots one is because adults get caught up in that we need to win. And there's like a grey area, isn't there, between grassroots and elite, where you've got the really good grassroots teams and they've got a reputation for winning, and the scouts will come down and watch.
Yeah.
And they work more on the idea of, if you're good enough, we'll keep you for the next season. I would go back to the parents and say, look, what are you in this for? Why are you bringing your kid here? Well, because he enjoys it. Okay. So if this grassroots team says they don't want you, go and find one that does, and have an honest conversation with your kid about, look, let's go and enjoy a different place. We don't want to be in that club anyway. And I think have the really open conversation of this is absolutely no reflection on you as a person. It is what it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Turn it into a teaching moment of there's going to be rejection in life in different areas, whatever it might be, your job, relationships, whatever. So can we move it to that? I wouldn't be in that much of a rush to take my kid to an academy before the age of 10, 12, because I think it's or if I was, I'd be going, I need to really talk to you about why we're going there. You know, like we challenge you with some harder spellings that you can't do.
Yeah.
Well, we could challenge you with, can you be a better footballer and go and have a play against, but we might not stay there all the time, you know. And if they weren't thriving, I'd be going, we're out.
Yeah.
No, you know, there's the research in them from Sweden where up to 12, I'm not going to be able to remember the club. That's annoying, but it's in the book Soul. So Jonathan Harding book, great book. And they say up till 12, we let the kids decide if they want to come or not.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine doing that in a club in England?
Yeah.
They'd be like, what? Well, how do we run the games? How do we run? You know, it'd just be problem. But if you'd put it like that, you're saying to the club, we need to be really good.
Yeah.
We need the clubs, we need the players going, we want to come because it's a good time and it's whatever. And I was like, that's a really, really good approach. And if I was in an academy, I'd be thinking, can we do that? Can we lengthen the time at which they are with us? So look, we're bringing you at 10. You're with us for 4 years. We're committed to that, so you know where you are.
Do you think, Chris, that football clubs are petrified of missing something? Like, you know, I think that what's incredible is you see some football clubs and some big names, and they've got elite development squad, then they've got a shadow squad,
yeah,
and then they've got like another squad that's on the verge. Do you think that that's unfair, or you're mis-selling young players' dreams here, or?
Are we mis-selling them? That's quite a strong thing, isn't it? I mean, I think there are some. I think that does occur in some instances, but that could happen from an agent. That could happen from a club, one coach in a club. It could, but let's not beat around the bush. It could. There's bad practice. Do I think that parents go into it with unrealistic expectations? Again, some do. I think the majority don't. They know it's tough. They know it's going to be tough. But I do think there's a race to the bottom among clubs to get kids signed in with the idea of if we open up the base, if we increase the number that we've got at the bottom, the number that filters to the top are going to be better. I think that is the case. So they hoover up as much as they can, and then cross the fingers that if we've got the really good ones, and even if they don't turn out to be really good, you know, we're Cat 3, we might get compensation payments because later on, a Man United comes in and gives us $1 million for a kid, you know, and he's 18. He goes into their under 21s and we'll see what, you know, but for us, the Cat 3, that $1 million, that'll do. And yeah, I do think there is that. Now, it's a difficult one. Is that mis-selling? Or I don't know. I
think they're probably, sorry, Chris. I think the best thing to, I always think about, like, probably the best question to ask you is there too many players in the system at the moment, do you think?
Yes. I do. And I think, or if there's not too many players in the system, there are too many players with experiences that are not going to get them to the elite level.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Now they might go, yeah, but we, you know, career now in the National League in England is going to get you a bit of money, you know, could get you quite a decent couple few years. And players have played there over a number of years, really enjoyed themselves. We had a business on the side. Okay, great. But so that would be my take on that. And I think if you are serious around getting more of the kids from your academy to a higher level, you need to think differently around the strategy of doing that. You know, around, and I mean the whole developmental process, the whole, at what point do we bring in deselection? How do we as a club, I've spoken about this before, where when I went to visit Benfica and they're all doing gymnastics.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you doing gymnastics for? Core strength, balance.
Yeah.
And they sell, I mean, they sell so many to the Premier League who we go, what a player, what a player, what a player. Yeah, I think if I went into a football academy in England going, I think we should get everyone doing gymnastics, they go, all right, there's the door. See ya. You've got to be joking, mate.
Yeah.
You know, we do plyometrics, we do,
Yeah.
and I would be changing the narrative of and really digging down into where are we trying to get them to? Why do we exist as an academy? Where are we trying to get them to? What does that look like? What does that look like in the under 12s? Shut off the noise, shut off people on podcasts having a go at us for this, that, and the other one. Look, we've got this is how we do it, and this is our aim, this is what we're aiming for. Let's monitor it as we go. That's how we change the numbers getting into our first team, going to have a professional career, you know, and it would include some really difficult conversations and questions. How do we engage with Europe and clubs around Europe for our player development? How do we go about, how do we engage with agents? Like, what is that relationship like? And how do we talk to them? Really difficult conversations. But I often say, if I was working in a club, I would want to say, you're employing me to ask the difficult conversations and help you solve them, not just be, oh, that's a difficult question. Let's just brush that one under the carpet and carry on doing what we're doing, which can be an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
I think
It's like, say, that was one of my questions, because I was going to ask you about, can we learn off other countries? And I think you probably just answered that in your last response. But there must be elements of good practice right across the globe in relation to player development.
Yeah, and I think there's elements of good practice in this country. You know, I'm not just blasting the whole system going, oh, it's, I think if you look at, and I say this because I deal a lot with player care, head of academy, they're good people. I mean, they are putting in some right shifts, the hours they put in, they care. They might even be supporters of the club in and of itself, and they're working hard. So there are elements of good practice in there, I think. But what I'm trying to advocate for is a club to be a bit more revolutionary in how they develop their young players. And by that, by the way, you could then do some really good staff development. You really could, and I think you could steal a march. So yeah, okay. So we're going to take this idea from Benfica. Wow, look at what they do. Look at what, how have Bodø/Glimt done that then on that budget? Well, let's have a look at that. What about some other sports that we could like bring into this? Into, like, could we learn a bit from other sports? Could we learn from other sports around what not to do? Could we learn from other countries around what not to do? Of course we could. Like, let's be really open about what goes well, what doesn't go so well. Yeah, I think that could be. It would need resourcing, and that's probably a challenge for a lot of academies, because the budget gets sucked towards the first team. You know, but that's what I would be doing. A really good example of that is I look at how many members of staff some academies have got now, and I think, whoa, what, that you've actually just made your problem worse. You've got loads of people watching this game. Look at all these academy members of staff here. That's just increased your complexity of your network. Lines of communication have got trickier. You've got more people leaking information. Big problem in football clubs. Like, a lot going on here.
Why is that happened, Chris? Do you think? Like, why have we got more staff now on a bench than there is players at the end? Like, you know, when they come together after a game's finished, seems to be more staff coming on than there is like players coming off. Like, how have we got to that?
I think there's a misconception that as things get more complicated, let's get more people involved, because then that's that bit done. That's that sorted.
Yeah.
I also think it's sometimes a way of protecting one person. Like, I'll bring people in, and then, oh, well, I've got to line manage all these people now. Like, look, That's increasing my importance. That doesn't just happen in football clubs. It happens in business. It happens in governments. Whatever. If I bring people in under me like that, I'm employing. Like, look, that gives me standing. But but what it does is it complicates. In no better liars and figurations, you make things more complicated. You've got more people in your network, you've got more relationships, you've got more power balances, you've got more unintended consequences, you've got more people leaving, coming in. It does become more complicated, and then because of that, you end up with more unintended consequences. So I think that's a real good example of something that's occurred where we could learn a lot from other countries where they're doing far better with their academies with fewer staff. They're actually going, look, you're just overcomplicating what's going on here, and again ask the difficult questions. Or we've got, there's the canteen for the academy, and we brought in cooks for that, and that. Have we made it too comfortable? Have we made this an environment in which they are wanting to develop and work hard and everything, or have we just made them go, I'm not going out on loan, I'll stay here? Like, $5,000 a week, great breakfast, great lunch, got myself a nice car, in the under 21s, and you're telling me you want me out on loan? So I'm going to try and think of a club, and I'm potentially going to offend them now, but somebody in League Two, and it's like, you got to get your own breakfast before you're on arrival, and they're going to. Have we had that difficult conversation? Probably not. But now we've got 70 members of staff just in the academy, analysts, things clipped up, things. Yeah.
Well, welcome to life, Chris. If you go down a few divisions, isn't it? Welcome to the real world at times. I'm sure you're in your research, because I bet you've heard this before as well in the people that you've spoke to, and that is, we exist in the bubble. A lot of them said that to my PhD. It's like a bubble there, isn't it? That is not real at times. It's like, as you said, it's very opulent. It's very, you're very well supported. The sports science is incredible. Pitches are incredible. Coaches are, top level. And then all of a sudden you go down a level or two. It's a huge difference, isn't it?
It's about risk and reward. I think for the players, I always look at this from a player's perspective, going, are you willing to risk? Are you willing to be Harvey Elliott and risk? Or do you want to stay at Liverpool and just keep taking your paycheck and walking around? That comes down to what defines you as a player. Marcus Rashford, you know what? I need to risk. I need to move away from here, and I need to risk. I need to go to Villa. I need to go to Barcelona. I need to risk if I'm going to get better. And there's example after example within the PhD. Between the ages of 18 and 23, on average, players move 5 times. And my argument, or the point I always want to make with young players is, how is the world seeing you and knowing that you're a great player in the under 21s? It's within the game, it gets referred to as walking football, doesn't it? Because it's just not intense. And then go to a Premier League game, or go to, I'm in Manchester now, so it's Newcastle Man City tonight. You go and see the intensity of that game tonight, and then ask yourself, any of them under 21s ready for that? No chance. So you've got to engineer. I mean, there's a lad gone to Sheffield Wednesday on loan. He was on at Luton, and I'm like, great, good on him, because he's gone to a nightmare club. I'm a Sheffield Wednesday fan, so I can say nightmare club at the moment. In administration, trying to find a buyer, bottom of the league, 39 points adrift of safety, going down, and he's gone. Now, whether he's what the situation, but he's gone, here I am. And if I was looking from the outside, I'd go, well, there's something about him. Like, he's willing to go there and pull his socks up and go to a club where it must be easy to be like, oh, is there not a different opportunity where, stadium's going to be half empty each week? They've not scored in 6 games. I mean, straight away, I would say, great risk. Good on you. Like, in my mind now, I'm so hoping that works out for him. Harry Amass, really good example. Stepped out from Manchester United, went to Sheffield Wednesday, Player of the Month. People are like, he is very good. Now he's got himself a move to Norwich.
Yeah.
You know, back from Wednesday, Norwich, brilliant. Because eyes were on him. Now he's got now you put that next to somebody who's just sat in the under-21s at Manchester United or at Liverpool or at Arsenal or at wherever, you know, Palace, Brentford, going, this is sound. This is good. I've got my foreground. No. Those are the kids who've gone, if I want reward, there's got to be risk.
Yeah.
And we've got to talk to them, and you all know about the, you know, the psychological side. We've got to talk about fear. We've got to talk about vulnerability. We've got to talk about courage.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be open about it. How do we manage that? You are going to be vulnerable. You're at Blackpool on loan. You are vulnerable. What if it goes wrong? Yeah, what if?
Yeah.
But that's how you get to the top. That is how you get to the top.
Brilliant, Chris. Yeah, I 100% agree. Do you think then, just sort of like pick up on the last couple of points and questions for you, and that is, are sometimes coaches, managers not honest enough with players? Do you think they get, I hate using this term, but strung along a little bit, where someone really should be sitting them down and saying to them, look, you're not at the first team level at the moment, but if you went to that, you know, if you went on loan to a League One side or a League Two side, that'll bring you on a little bit. You'll get used to playing men's football. And then, you know, maybe in 3 months, 6 months, you might have an opportunity then to start training with the first team squad. Or, you know, are we honest enough with players?
I don't. I think as a general rule, we're probably not. As a general rule. Now, that's not saying that all coaches string players along. I think we have to be on, you know, we can't just broad brush and go, yeah, everybody's like that all the time. But what I would say is the under-21s have got to complete their games programs. And there are clubs that want to win at under-21 level. So they'll keep players in the under-21s because they want to win there. And that might not be the coach's fault. You know, that could be somebody above him going, we need to win. You know, I want to win this. So there's that. That is to say, I don't think they're being dishonest on purpose, but they're in this network themselves, and they're not all powerful. These coaches, they can't just say what they want. They're being employed by a club. Then you're going to have an agent. Oh, what's his motives or her motives, and how does a player get that trust? So what I try and do in the coaching the career planning, the career coaching, is to say, I'm not going to say what's right or wrong, but I'm going to help you understand the data from 303 players. A bit like if I was just to tip Lego out on that table, you'd go, I have no idea what that is. But if I help you work through the booklet and we put that piece with that piece and that bit, after a bit, you'll go, it's a Formula One car. I'm starting to see it now. So what I want them to do is, as a family, and some of them bring their agent with them, go, I'm seeing this now. I'm seeing this for what it is. And then you can say, okay, so over to you. And no judgment. Do you want to sit in your under-21s? Or do you want to risk? Like, that is the reality of the system that you're in. And by the way, agent, so when we're going into contract negotiations, are we having these discussions? What's the discussion about? You know, don't just let a club go, look, we've got this idea of how you're going to get to our first team. I've already got the idea. It's loans, isn't it? Because I've been working with a career coach and I'm going to have to move. So where do you think I should go to prove to you that I'm ready for the first team? Because I can't do it in the under-21s. You know that. I know that. And then a club's like, oh, okay, I don't think we can pull the wool. I think we need, yeah, all right. And I would love to have, if I'm a club, I'd love to have a player going, look, let me go out on loan and show you that I'm ready for the first team, because I can't do that here. You know, I'm Harry Amass. Let me go. Let me go and show you that I can play, because I really want to show you I can play. Yeah, that's okay. All right, let's have those conversations. That's where I try and get players to, try and get them to that space, so that if the coach is stringing them along, they're able to go, no, that's not. If I stay in the under-21s, I've got no chance of being in Tottenham Hotspur's first team. No chance. You know that. And if I'm 19, I need to be tickling the first team squad here. You know that, and I know that. And if that's not going to happen, get me out on loan. Get me out. Get me to somewhere top of League One, whatever. Like there's going to be clubs there, and let me go for it. And because that's how I get eyes on me. That's how I get noticed. But in a club, I would be saying that's how I get our first team manager to go, who's this kid? Because the scouts are going to start reporting back going, he's banging goals in League One. All right, let's give him a loan in the Championship, see how he does. Great. Then I'll go on to that one. That is how you have to do it. So I know it's a long way around, but I don't want to go with yes, all coaches string players along because they don't.
Yeah.
But flip it round and say, right, okay, player, I need to be equipped. Mum, dad, auntie, uncle, age. I need to be equipped with the data, which allows me to say, this is how this plays out. And the clubs know this. Lots of clubs know this because, when you speak to them in football, in the clubs, they'll all talk about how poor under 21 football is and how there's, the shirt fillers, the facilitator players. That's the language they use, but we can't I can understand why they can't say that to parents. So I do.
Yeah, great, Chris. Yeah. I think it's fascinating, isn't it? Some of the player journeys, that how they go in different directions and they go all over the place. Some go out on loan, some head straight into first team. It's everybody's different, aren't they? And needs to be treated like that.
Yeah. You can't deny you need a bit of luck along the way.
Yeah.
But I think with the loan moves, with the risk, you increase the chances of the luck coming in your direction. A Gary Player, isn't it? More a practice, the luckier I seem to get. The more you manipulate things, the more you actually get on the front foot with some of these moves, the luckier you will get. And really, that's because eyes are on you. You can't deny that you need talent, you need ability, you need to be good. But by the way, you also need to go and have some failures along the way. You're going to have some stinkers. So let's get out on loan and get those stinkers out of the way. Let's start learning from them. Because those who go and get gold medals at Olympics, those who go and make world-class players, when you look back through it, they're the ones who actually are able to take knockbacks, bad performances into a learning phase.
Yeah,
that's the big difference.
Yeah.
The ones who don't make it to the top are the ones who take those personally. So like bad performance, that means I'm rubbish.
Yeah.
Gold medal winners go, bad performance, okay. Why? What do I need to take from that? So for me, I'm saying you can't get that in under 21 football. You actually need to go on loan to Barnsley, maybe have some bad games. Harvey Elliott now, he's had a stinker of a move, but he's going to learn a hell of a lot from that, hell of a lot around the football industry. You can't, he's too, you are in that bubble when you're in the under 21. So that's what we're trying to get him to do.
Yeah, definitely, Chris. Because I've seen some players, I think sometimes it comes down for me as well to you, like your manager, that I have seen a couple of young players have a really bad start on loan and play really poorly, give a couple of goals away, passing's not quite there, but the manager keeps giving them a chance. He doesn't sort of wreck them and say, right, you're out of the equation now. You obviously can't cut it at that level. That's important as well, isn't it? That level of feeling of support from your manager.
Yeah, of course it is. Yes, and that probably then goes back to when you're asking the age, like, where would I go? Well, what managers take chances on young players? I've heard kind of on the grapevine that Barnsley are quite supportive of having young players in and around the squad. Does your agent know that? Because where are we aiming them at? If we're a centre midfielder, we're not aiming at a team that just plays long ball or, So there's all that goes into it. So you can perhaps get to that environment where you've got a manager who's, maybe a bit more in that space. Of course, that's part of it. But then the flip side, you get to a space and they're not, and the manager's not supportive. Right? Well, what can we learn from that then?
Yeah.
How do you carry yourself around the club if the manager's going, nah? Again, something that coming out, isn't it, from Harvey Elliott? How people are saying he's, Unai Emery's been really vocal, going, look, I don't think, no, we're not signing him. Still in training, he's been unbelievable. His attitude around the club's been fantastic. That's great. That is really, really good, because that's now out there where people are saying, well, I think he is a good player. And you're telling me he's got a good attitude. He's not kicked off. He's not gone on strike. He's not saying I'm not playing. He's not gone out on social media. His partner's not done it, okay. So even in those, what might be termed the darker times, based on the research, understanding what attitude is, we can start to say, I can still manipulate the situation. I can still be, that's what I am, and show I've got a good attitude. He's doing that.
And I think one of the most important things as well, Chris, throughout the difficulties, the disappointments, the sadness, as we said earlier, football's a game of hard knocks. Somehow you've got to maintain that love for what you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
that's a challenge, isn't it?
You can probably speak to that, and yeah, trying to be present in the moment, and it's something I guess we all do in life, isn't it? You know, when the stresses are on, how do you stay present and enjoy the moment, enjoy the the finer things in life and those sorts of things. That's a big challenge. Be grateful for what you've got when it could be really, really difficult. Because it can be difficult, and I also think in football it's quite hard to talk to people about how difficult it is because they assume it's just easy.
Yeah.
You know, you get paid loads of money for kicking a ball around. So that and trying to stay in a moment where you're enjoying just life. I always said, you know, with my intro there, where I've tried to work to players to show that they can thrive. That's really what you're trying to do. You know, I want to thrive in life, whatever's happening in football, whatever the politics has been played at Aston Villa behind the scenes around how much money they want to pay and don't want to pay. And I need to be thriving. I need to be in a space where I'm like, that's what all people want. They want purpose, something to get them out of bed in the morning, a challenge, a level of security, relationships. That's the bit that gets them thriving, isn't it? So focusing on that, yeah. No doubt.
Okay, because I could talk to you all night, but I'll wrap it up with a final question for you. And that is, if you had one opportunity, if somebody come to you now at the sort of like tomorrow and said, right, Chris, you're in charge of the football academy reform, what would be the first thing that you'd do?
Oh.
Yeah.
I would tackle early specialization. I would have some sort of now, whether it's done through regulation, that's hard to implement. But I think it's not right at all that we're down at that level with the 5s and the 6s, and then we're releasing them some, you know, oh no, we don't fancy you, and they're only 7 or they're 8. I'm like, no, that is where I would go. Hang on. Let's look. These are really young children. Nobody's telling me that you can predict where they're going to be at 18. I mean, Chelsea's a top level academy and managed to let Mason Mount, Mark Gahey, Declan Rice, Conor Gallagher all go.
Yeah.
Come on. So you're not now turning around telling me that all these people know what these 6s and 7s are going to be about. So I'll be looking at that, saying we need to be really honest and open about what we're doing at that level before we get higher up. I think that's the foundations. That's where I'd start. I mean, there's a lot of jobs I'd like to do, but I'd give that one as my starting point. Yeah.
Brilliant, Chris. Thanks so much. An honour and a privilege to have you on and share
thanks for having me.
And your insight and your experience and your wisdom of the modern football academy, because we know there's lots of work to do. We know it's always ongoing all the time, and things can get better. There's never any perfect scenarios, but thanks so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us, brilliant.
Thanks for having me, and obviously, you know, congratulations on the podcast. You know, keep it going. I've enjoyed watching these episodes and stuff. So yeah, it's good stuff. Keep up your work.
Thanks so much, Chris. That's brilliant.
Cheers, Alan.